Jeffrey Dahmer, the name that sends chills down the spine of anyone who hears it. A man whose heinous crimes shocked the world and whose mind remains one of the most disturbed in criminal history. This is the story of the Milwaukee cannibal, a man who committed unspeakable acts and almost got away with them. To understand Jeffrey Dahmer, we must delve into his early life, explore his psyche, and dissect his monstrous actions. Born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Dahmer seemed to have a relatively normal childhood. However, underneath the surface, dark and disturbing tendencies were beginning to brew. Dahmer's fascination with death and dissection began at an early age. His father, a chemist, noticed his interest in bones and showed him how to bleach and preserve them. This seemingly innocent curiosity took a darker turn when Dahmer started collecting roadkill and dissecting the animals in his backyard. These early signs of a troubled mind were dismissed as mere childhood eccentricities. Jeffrey Dahmer exhibited classic signs of psychopathy from a young age. His lack of empathy, fascination with death, and early experimentation with dissection are significant red flags. Unfortunately, these were overlooked, allowing his darker impulses to grow unchecked. In high school, Dahmer was an outcast, often ridiculed by his peers. He began drinking heavily to cope with his isolation. His first violent fantasy emerged during this period, an obsession with a jogger he wanted to immobilize and control. Dahmer's fantasies were becoming increasingly macabre, setting the stage for his future crimes. Jeff was always kind of a loner, you know? He had this weird sense of humor, and he drank a lot. But we never imagined he was capable of what he eventually did. Dahmer's descent into murder began in 1978, shortly after his high school graduation. His first victim was Stephen Hicks, an 18-year-old hitchhiker. Dahmer picked him up, lured him to his parents' house, and after drinking together, bludgeoned him with a dumbbell before strangling him. He then dismembered Hicks's body and scattered the remains in his backyard. The terrifying spree had begun. Dahmer's first kill set the tone for his future crimes. The meticulous dismemberment, the careful disposal of the body, it was clear he had thought about this a lot. For nearly a decade, Dahmer remained dormant, but his urges never faded. In 1987, he struck again. His second victim, Stephen Tuomi, was killed in a hotel room. Dahmer claimed he had no memory of the murder, only waking up to find Tuomi's dead body. This time, Dahmer took the body home, dismembered it, and disposed of the remains in the trash. Between 1987 and 1991, Dahmer's killing spree escalated, claiming the lives of 15 more men. His modus operandi involved luring his victims to his apartment with promises of money or alcohol, drugging them, and then strangling them. But the horror didn't end there. Dahmer's actions post-mortem were even more grotesque. Inside Dahmer's apartment, police found a nightmarish scene. Human skulls and bones were scattered throughout, and several heads were stored in the refrigerator. Dahmer admitted to practicing necrophilia and cannibalism, explaining that consuming his victims made them a permanent part of him. Dahmer's cannibalism and necrophilia were attempts to achieve total control and possession over his victims. His actions stemmed from profound loneliness and a desperate need to prevent his victims from leaving him. Despite the mounting number of victims, Dahmer came dangerously close to being caught several times. One of the most significant near misses occurred in 1991 when 14-year-old Konarak Synthasamphone escaped Dahmer's apartment only to be returned by police after Dahmer convinced them they were lovers. Konarak was later killed. The oversight by the police allowed Dahmer to continue his killing spree unabated. He said he still remembered that night vividly. When he managed to escape and flag down the police, he was terrified. If they hadn't believed him, he doesn't know if he'd be here today. Dahmer's reign of terror finally ended on July 22, 1991, when Tracy Edwards managed to escape and alert the police. When officers entered Dahmer's apartment, they were met with a gruesome scene that confirmed Edwards' story. Dahmer was arrested and later confessed to the murders, providing chilling details about his actions. In court, Dahmer pleaded guilty but insane to the charges, hoping to be declared legally insane. However, the jury rejected his plea, and he was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms in prison. On November 28, 1994, Dahmer was beaten to death by a fellow inmate. What drove Jeffrey Dahmer to commit such horrific acts? Experts believe his crimes were fueled by a combination of factors: childhood trauma, abandonment issues, and an intense desire for control and companionship. His lack of empathy and remorse indicated deep-seated psychopathy. Dahmer's need to dominate and possess his victims was a manifestation of his deep psychological issues. His actions were an extreme attempt to fill an emotional void and achieve a twisted sense of fulfillment. Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes left an indelible mark on society. His story serves as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk within individuals and the importance of recognizing early signs of mental illness. His case also highlighted significant lapses in law enforcement and the justice system, prompting changes in how authorities handle potential threats. Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes left an indelible mark on society. His story serves as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk within individuals and the importance of recognizing early signs of mental illness. His case also highlighted significant lapses in law enforcement and the justice system, prompting changes in how authorities handle potential threats.